So, title of the video: confirmed. False flag incoming. This is this video is gonna pick up where my last video, every selection is rigged. Furthermore, that is part of a series that I'm putting together to one giant movie, one larger movie, and it's gonna tie into the most, well, the second most recent video that I did regarding what happened in Nashville. So that's all gonna come to a close out here. First, I'm gonna explain COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO was a series of covert and illegal projects conducted by the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation aimed at surveilling, infiltrating, discrediting, and disrupting domestic American political organizations. Two of the main ones that I'm going to focus on is uh, what it did with the Black Panthers and what it did with the Mafia. Now, the example with the Black Panthers is simple. The Black Panthers were a people's liberation movement. It was aimed at policing and cleaning up the communities because we all know in those times with racial tensions, the police, for the most part, only caused trouble in those neighborhoods. In fact, you can go look up. The police allowed drug dealers to operate in those communities, and they made sure that drugs made it into the communities to destabilize it. So that's what the purpose of the Black Panthers were. And they used tactics of assassinating leaders, imprisoning leaders, forcing leaders into exile to fragment the group into the Bloods and the Crips, and basically reestablishing that destabilization of the community through drugs and now gang warfare, tribalism. So that's just a basic example, and one of the prime examples for what they did to the mafia is with Donnie Brasco, or Joseph D. Pistone. Is an American former FBI agent who worked undercover between 1786 and 1981, primarily infiltrated the Bonanno crime family, um, and eventually led to a whole bunch of convictions. So we're going to cover the mafia and what they have to do with the rest of this. I'm going to get off track, not off track, but we're going to talk about a few things regarding the mafia going back because the series covered, excuse me, series covered prohibition and how prohibition really gave rise to organized crime, even though it existed before the prohibition. And then the prohibition ended because the government needed money. And the prohibition was not really about uh, the dry movement, which is what it was called. It was more about creating a monopoly on oil. Well, people were using moonshine to run vehicles, basically. So one of the main mafia members that we're going to talk about is Meyer Lansky. Now, Meyer Lansky is extremely famous, arguably one of the most notorious. Well, I don't want to say notorious because people associate people like uh, people associate other names with higher notoriety. Though Meyer Lansky was probably one of the most dangerous, the most powerful in the history of crime. I don't know. I'm not an expert on it, but one thing. One thing that definitely stands out about Meyer Lansky was his his casino ring. He held casinos not only all over the country but all over the world. He had casinos in Cuba prior to Fidel Castro taking over, and eventually Meyer Lansky tried to seek redemption by being involved with the Bay of Pigs. He wanted to get his casino ring back in power. Now, it gets very interesting to realize just how much power that he and other cartels had over the government with use of extortion. Uh, Lansky is credited with having controlled compromising pictures of a sexual nature featuring former FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover with his longtime aide Clyde Tolson. Sorry. Apparently, J. Edgar Hoover and Clyde Tolson were sodomites, and they would extort politicians, policemen, judges, and this was how they were able to rise to power, and this is how they were able to prevent becoming controlled. And eventually, in the 80s, they had to invent RICO laws in order to get to the higher ups, the top of the organized crime food chain. So, one of the characters we're going to introduce here, one such stage for the acquisition of extortion materials were orgies held by late attorney and Lansky protege Roy Cohn and liquor magnate Louis Rosenstiel. Okay, let's take a look at Roy Cohn. Well, first, let's take a look at Roy Cohn. Because Roy Cohn represented and mentored real estate developer, later President of the United States, Donald Trump, during his early business career. Very interesting about Roy Cohn was he began. Well, let's see this. Alan Dershowitz, a pedophile, was also associated with Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn, at age 24? 24-year-old Roy Cohn brought to the attention FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover recommended him to Joseph McCarthy during the McCarthy trials. So here we have J. Edgar Hoover being suspected of being a homo. And when all of that got swept under the rug, he decided to seek counsel from Roy Cohn, the person who was holding the orgies. Go figure. I don't know if that happened before or afterwards, but Roy Cohn's hands are not clean, so to speak. Cohn was suspected of being a homo as well, because Cohn led the Army McCarthy hearings and tried to destroy the entire American military because his lover, David G. Shine, was sent overseas. And he said that they were holding him hostage or something along those lines. There are plenty of other people that Roy Cohn represented. Donald Trump, George Steinbrenner, Aristotle Onassis, okay, Tony Salerno, Galante, Gotti. Roman Catholic Archdiocese of New York. I mean, how many of them are not pedophiles? I think they're all pedophiles. Well, I don't know about the mafia members. Some of them are just connected. One thing that I could say is there's definitely a time in the mafia where they were anti-homo, anti-pedophile. And that's when they got hit with RICO. As soon as they started becoming straight in the sexual sense, is when RICO was made up. Trust me. The government's run by faggots. Listen. He served as an informal advisor to Nixon and Reagan. And this is gonna, because Richard Nixon is really famous for going to Bohemian Grove. I got a picture of this. Richard Nixon is famous for going to Bohemian Grove and saying, Bohemian Grove is the most goddamn faggiest thing I've ever seen. And we got pictures of Reagan and Nixon at the Bohemian Grove. So while on the Reagan campaign, he would befriend Roger Stone. Okay, Roger Stone was the person who Trump just recently pardoned. Now, Roger Stone has a... I'll bring this up. Okay, it's up there. Roger Stone has... Come on, man. Roger Stone. I don't know if I want to click on this, but hey, we'll do it. Roger Stone has a... Yeah, I shouldn't have clicked on that. Roger Stone has a tattoo of Richard Nixon on his back. Now we're gonna go down here. Oh. He also represented Rupert Murdoch. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. We're gonna go through it all. We're gonna go through it all. I'm gonna keep my cool this time. So Kahn was an aide to Roger Stone. We're gonna go through this in a second. Okay. So this was the whole thing. Blah 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 blah. So here you go. Because Roy Cohn died of AIDS. Roger Stone says, this was the person that Donald Trump just pardoned. Roy Cohn was not gay. He was a man who liked having sex with men. Gays were weak, effeminate. He always seemed to have these young blonde boys around. It just wasn't discussed. He was interested in power and access. That's the people who run the country, by the way. He always seemed to have these young blonde boys around. It's like, come the fuck on. Excuse me for cursing. But really? Really? You know, I'm going to spend about 60 seconds on this. This is why I can't keep my cool. This is why I can't keep my cool. Because people are always making excuses for the evil that's done. Okay? They'll say, don't worry, God has a plan. Yeah, tell that to the kids who are getting raped. Tell that to them. God has a plan. Tell that to the people in Yemen. Tell that to the people in Sudan. That God has a plan. God has a plan for you because you got running water. You got feet. You got shoes on your feet. You got clothes on your back. You got electricity. So, yeah, of course God's going to have a plan for you. The mafia's involvement with the JFK murder. We all know that JFK had his vices. I'm just going to go out and bet that he was a prostitute fiend, like a different prostitute every night. Thank you, Karaka. At least you weren't here for my previous attempt. Listen. So JFK, I'm just gonna say he was a serial solicitor. That's another word for a prostitute fiend or a trick. I'm willing to bet he liked some type of drugs. He probably liked cocaine All the mafia guys, they were users of drugs. They did not stick by the rule, don't get high on your own supply. Very few of them kept a clean nose. Because this was back in the days. I'm just going to go off on a rant. This was back in the days when the coke was pure. They didn't have fentanyl and all this stuff. It was just different back then. Like, I don't know. Anyways, they used Marilyn Monroe, who was a prostitute and a secret agent or whatever, and you can find the connections between Mickey Cohen, which is just Cohen is the original form of the word con. Thank you. Thank you, Karaka. Thank you for tuning in. And they used Marilyn Monroe most likely to get to JFK. You can find these names: Lucky Luciano, Frank Costello, Bugsy Siegel, Maya Lansky. Where was Mickey Cohen? Mickey Cohen. Because they were definitely charged with prostitution. So, before we get into the next series, we're going to talk about Aleister Crowley. He's the founder of the first Church of Satan. So, I have an infographic here. I hope y'all like pictures. Now, this was done for a previous, not project, but I did this kind of separately. And this is all one giant family, okay? This Aleister Crowley right here. This Barbara Bush right here. Y'all can see the resemblance. Bill Gates, George Bush, Al Gore, George Bush. They went head to head in an election. Okay? Y'all see Vladimir Putin and the Queen. It's because they're of the same bloodline. Joe Biden, same story. I'll get into Joe Biden's ties with the mafia as well. Here's Bush and Bush. Here's Queen. Well, for all I know, he's a queen. And here's the king. For all I know, she's the king. And they swap, but you couldn't tell. If somebody was not really fluent in the families, you'd say, oh, look, this is Barbara Bush. Because they're relatives. This is Winston Churchill. This is Aleister Crowley. Mohammed bin Salman. This is them at Bohemian Grove. Donald Trump's part of it. Giuliani's part of it. Bloomberg is part of it. Hell, Obama's part of it. If we look at Obama and you cut his face in half and you put it on George Bush's, they got the same head, the same hairline, the same ears, the same nose, the same wicked smile. Here's Yuri Gagarin, and here's Neil Armstrong. Same person. Neil Armstrong was an actor when he was Yuri Gagarin. Go look into Yuri Gagarin's death. Most conspicuous thing ever. Now, I mean, the first Church of Satan, right, is where they really openly preach this gay stuff. And when I say gay, I include, like, I don't understand the guys out there who think, look, if you, in my opinion, this is where it might get a little graphic, so if there's kids in the room, turn it off. You got a few seconds. If you're a man and you put your dick inside a woman's asshole, that's borderline gay. There's dudes who fuck other dudes and they're like, I'm not gay. Like, yeah, you are. Like, come on now. This is why the language I want people to understand. When I say gay, when I say fag, when I say homo, I mean anybody who does that. Anybody. Fucking fags. And I try not to curse, but God damn. Literally, and I don't believe in God, but God damn it. Holy mother of God. So, moving on. Following Crowley was Michael Aquino, and he founded the Temple of Set in 1975. Okay? Michael Aquino still to this day does not have a Wikipedia. He was a 4-star general in the Air Force. And listen, they worship Satan, they're pedophiles, they do nasty stuff, gay stuff. They conduct magic, seances, they try and contact interdimensional beings. This is what they do. And Michael Aquino was a 4-star general in the Air Force, I believe it was. We can look at it here. Because here's the Royal Air Force. Yeah, the goat of Mendes. Boom, right there, right in front of everybody. And here is the logo of the Air Force, which was introduced in January 2000, just prior to 9/11, by the way. Michael Aquino here, 5-pointer star here. Sammy Davis Jr., Hollywood star. Now, do you understand the meaning of Hollywood star when they get their star in the pavement? Now, do you understand the meaning of it? And this is Anton LaVey. We'll get into Anton LaVey in a second. He was the 3rd founder of the Church of Satan. He and Aquino disagreed with the direction that they should take it. Actually, I don't have anything to get into with Anton LaVey. Now, Anton LaVey set up his headquarters in San Francisco. Later on, it's rumored that he set up his unofficial headquarters, the East Coast headquarters, in Newtown, Connecticut. In other words, Sandy Hook, Connecticut. Okay, we're going to get into Ronald Reagan in a second. So, okay, now this is Dwight York, otherwise known as Malachi Z. York. Malachi Z. York is currently serving a prison sentence for rape, child molestation, racketeering, conspiracy, fraud. I believe he was framed, so they're false allegations. Now he has some crazy views that he views that thinks that he is like an extraterrestrial descendant or something. He has all this funny pagan satanic theme park going on in Georgia. Basically what he did was he made a lot of money. He bought a lot of land and he started building a community for his people, and they found a way to circumvent the system. So if somebody was born, they wouldn't have to register Social Security because everything that they needed was here. They had like hospitals. They were literally going to create their own country within a country. Another thing that is very difficult to find, you'll have to really do some search. I remember it back in the days. I might have a file on it on a computer somewhere. And this is the same story as Waco, Texas. Like, of course, they're going to take this person and say that he did this, that, or the third because they were creating a compound. That's all it is. So here's Malachi Z. York. He had papers he had documents proving the ties of Ronald Reagan to Satanism, because Ronald Reagan was a Hollywood star before he became president. So they have ties of Ronald Reagan's ties to Satanism, pedophilia, child trafficking, and it how you say, it pointed fingers at many members in government. I'm not really going to go into it too much here, but look up Conspiracy of Silence. This is just the beginning place to look into. This is where you can start the rabbit hole if you're unfamiliar with some stuff like that. A lot of the stuff from the series, I think, True Detective with Matthew McConaughey, the first one, Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson, that one was fantastic in terms of the reality of it. And then season 2 was uh, showing how all the upper parts of the government were involved in it. It gets crazy. Mind you, it is entertainment, it is television. But just to show you, because we look at this one right here, and pretty much everybody here is white. So Obama was one of the first, we'll say, one of the first people without white skin in the club that they put in the spotlight. But that's just a thing that they do to sow further division. Check this out. And this Aleister Crowley with his goofy looking hat. So they got the triangle, the 6-pointed star, and the 5-pointed star. This is how it works. There's levels. There's layers. There's levels to the game, and they divide it all. So look, Bohemian Grove, we see the presidents here. Richard Nixon, the most goddamn faggiest thing I've ever seen. Well, look, here's Ronald Reagan. This isn't white power per se. This is the 666. Back in the days, 666. See it? 666. That's what it is. Here's Ronald Reagan throwing up the Baphomet. The Hook'em horns from Texas. That's the Baphomet. Also, the rock and roll sign. But that has different origins, because back in the days, you have to understand, everything was like hyper conservative. And right, they said rock and roll is the devil's music, so people just embraced it and said, yeah. And then that's where the whole, if you listen to heavy metal and all this stuff, there's a lot of, rock on, like rock and roll, because look, it's just music. But at the same time, this is how they gain power. It's like unintended promotion. You'll see. Because it causes confusion. It gives them something to hide behind. It says, like, so if I go to a rock concert and I started pointing to everybody that was throwing up the Baphomet, people would just laugh at me. So it hurts the cause of enlightenment, because it kind of dissuades meaning, but amongst these people, it's a form of communication. That's why Donald Trump constantly does the 666. Constantly. However, this was back in the days, back in the 80s, okay? Nowadays, when people throw up the WP, when people throw up the 666, nowadays, people are saying that it means white power, and I can see that. Here's why. In hip-hop, in pop culture, they've created a divide where you won't see anybody who isn't white throwing up the 666. You just won't, unless they're just trying to cause commotion. You won't find these people throwing up 666. So they're finding more ways to divide us. Meanwhile, everything that they do is still, here's Molech, the OVO owl, you see. Here's, because Drake is well, he's gay. Drake's gay. He might receive oral from women. He might do anal with women, but he's probably imagining other dudes. It's just how they are. Jay-Z, tranny chaser. Bet that. That's why he throws up the rock. That's why when he say throw up the rock, it's not a diamond. It's Aleister Crowley. Okay. So they've created this kind of divide here. This is Chris Brown, by the way. See this star? When someone has star tattoos like this, it means that they're gay. That's what it means. This is the pedophile symbol. And he's got a boy's sneaker hanging from it. So guess what Chris Brown likes to do? Yeah. When I see people promoting, it's like y'all really need to wake up and open up your eyes to what goes on. Because, look, I didn't know it's not going to be an answer when people with guns come finding. Like, the retribution, the judgment, it's not a higher, it's the purge. And there's people, like by me spreading this truth, I know I skipped over something I wanted to say, but by me spreading this truth, somebody's going to go around looking for people. If you have these tattoos, they're not going to ask questions. They're going to cut your throat, ear to ear. Colombian necktie. I'm going to cut your head off. I'm going to do some cartel stuff. Or they'll just pop one in the head and just leave you to rot and hope that some vermin take care of the body. That's what it is. And I ranted. I definitely ranted. Because this is supposed to be false flag incoming, right? 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Here I go. What does all of this have to do with false flags? Well, look. Saturn's poles have a hexagram. Okay? This has been known for the past 100,000 years. This has been known. Antediluvian society. Modern society cannot come up with a proper timeline for when the last civilization ended, but I promise you it wasn't 5,000 years ago. It wasn't 20,000 years ago, because everything was erased. And humans forgot the language that was spoken. But the group uses planets to communicate and uses planets as a calendar. And so Saturn on 9/11, September 11th, which by the way, it was an inside job, and I'll get into that in just a second. September 11th, Saturn and Pluto were in opposition. Okay, there's mythological meanings surrounding these planets. And so Saturn is, in one respect, is the god of agriculture and harvest. Harvesting the tares, the wheat. So there's meaning behind it. Mars is the god of war. So when you hear Elon Musk say we're going to Mars, they're not going to Mars. Trust me, they're not putting humans on Mars. Nope, not happening. There's a whole other series that I have to do behind that. When they say we're going to Mars, they literally mean that war is about to, they're going to bring war to the planet. That's what they're doing. Okay? Now let's look at this, the Metonic cycle. It's a 19-year cycle. It's a lunar eclipse that happened exactly 19 years to the day. The Metonic cycle that occurred 19 years ago was 2001. This Metonic cycle, we had the eclipses happening on the solstices, winter and summer solstices, respectively. January 12th, 2020, Mercury, Saturn, and Pluto aligned in Capricorn. So in order to understand how they communicate, you would have to understand the intended meanings, not the meanings that we want to assume, but the intended meanings behind these planets and this constellation. And then you can crack their code. But why do that? We already knew Sunday, January 12th, basically was the unofficial commencement of the global spread of whatever they want to call what happened. Okay, whether it exists or not. I don't know. I have other theories, and I will do a little bit about it later on here. So, what does all this have to do with false flags? Well, whether y'all like it or not, and I'll add one more thing here. Hurricane Aaron, 2001, the trajectory was set for New York City, but they made it do a damn near a 360. 180, because they needed the skies clear. It was a false. It was an inside job. I don't care what anybody says. There's further information, but we even have pictures to prove it. Mossad agents inside the towers with bombs, with explosives. The evidence that I'm also about to present to you is irrefutable. I don't care what anybody says. If you're in denial, then turn me off and never turn me back on again. That's all I can say. Because I cannot sit here and trip over something that to me is remedial. I've gone over it a million times and I see no holes in the theory. I'm going to talk about some very important things around 9/11. For example, everybody knows Lucky Larry Silverstein, who took out an insurance policy just months before. Well, here's a few things that y'all might not have known. First and foremost, one of the characters that shows up in Casey's coverage of the Hegelian school system, right here. The idea of establishing a World Trade Center in New York City was first proposed in 1943. The New York State legislature passed a bill authorizing New York Governor Thomas E. Dewey. So this character shows up again. To help stimulate urban renewal in Lower Manhattan, David Rockefeller suggested that the Port Authority build a World Trade Center there. Here's some more things that people might not have known. This company, Tishman Realty and Construction. Who's Tishman Realty and Construction? What do they do? Well, if you have the time, look up Tishman Realty and Construction's connections to the mafia. Now, they were a very, very, very prominent construction company, and let's look at some of the buildings that Tishman worked on. Walt Disney, you don't say. Let's look at some more. Oh, they built 666 Fifth Avenue. Makes you wonder. Let's look at what else they built. Well, they built the World Trade Center. Okay. They also had Building 3. I don't know if it's Building 3, but they had the Marriott. That one was destroyed. They also built Building 7. Is this Building 7? I assume that's Building 7. And look, they got the charter to rebuild all of it. So not only was Larry Silverstein very lucky, but so was Tishman Realty and Construction. Who was the connection? Ralph Scopo. This was the person who oversaw all of the concrete jobs done for all these jobs. And you can look at it here. Now, let's look at the bid for the World Trade Center. Hold on, because I know it's here. Well, first and foremost, it was a mafia job that robbed them in 1998. Now let's look at some of the leases. In fact, there's a company named Vornado Realty Trust, who we'll talk about in a second, who outbid Silverstein Properties. Says it right here. They wanted to privatize the World Trade Center to increase profits. On February 15th, 2001, Port Authority announced that Vornado Realty Trust had won the lease of the World Trade Center, paying $3.25 billion for the 99-year lease. Vornado outbid Silverstein by $600 million. Blah, 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 blah. However, Vornado insisted on last-minute changes to the deal, which they considered non-negotiable. Vornado later withdrew, and Silverstein's bid was accepted on April 26, 2001, closed July 24, 2001, just in time to take out an insurance policy. So, who is Vornado Realty Trust? Let's take a look at some of the buildings that Vornado Realty Trust owns. You don't say. Wait, because there's more. Also, 70% of 555 California Street, which is 30% owned by affiliates of Donald Trump. I think that is through Kushner. I think because Donald Trump has investments in Kushner's company. Anyways, 70% of 1290 Avenue of the Americas in New York City, which is 30% owned by Donald Trump. So let's look at 666 Fifth Avenue. The notorious building. Built by Tishman. So 666 Fifth Avenue, Tishman Realty, was built by Tishman Realty, the same company that built the World Trade Centers and many others. Not only that, but the same realty companies that were bidding for the World Trade Center just before the attacks also involved in it. Furthermore, we have Kushner still owning it, but leasing it in 2008 to a group called Brookfield Properties. I don't want to go too in-depth into this because I am going to touch on this again later on. But that is extra suspicious. What does this have to do with Donald Trump, you ask? Give me a second to turn my mic off, and I'll play the video clip of Donald Trump's interview just after, either the day of or the day after 9/11.
You know, Donald, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, it was an architectural defect. You know, the World Trade Center was always known as a very, very strong building. Don't forget, that took a big bomb in the basement. Now, the basement is the most vulnerable place because that's your foundation. And it withstood that. And I got to see that area about 3 or 4 days after it took place because one of my structural engineers actually took me for a tour because he did the building. And I said, I can't believe it. The building was standing solid and half of the columns were blown out. I mean, so this was an unbelievably powerful building. If you know anything about structure, it was one of the first buildings that was built from the outside. The steel, the reason the World Trade Center had such narrow windows is that in between all the windows you had the steel on the outside. So you had the steel on the outside of the building. That's why when I first looked, and you had big, heavy I-beams, when I first looked at it, I couldn't believe it because there was a hole in the steel. And this is steel that was, you remember the width of the windows in the World Trade Center, folks. I think, you know, if you were ever up there, they were quite narrow. And in between was this heavy steel. I said, how could a plane, even a 767 or 747, or whatever it might have been, how could it possibly go through the steel? I happen to think that they had not only a plane, but they had bombs that exploded almost simultaneously, because I just can't imagine anything being able to go through that wall. Most buildings are built with the steel is on the inside around the elevator shaft. This one was built from the outside, which is the strongest structure you can have, and it was almost just like a can of soup.
You know, Donald, we were looking at pictures all morning long of that plane coming into building number 2, and when you see that approach the far side, and then all of a sudden, within a matter of a millisecond, the explosion pops out the other side.
Right. I just think that it was a plane with more than just fuel. I think, obviously, they were very big planes. They were going very rapidly, because I was also watching where the plane seemed to be not only going fast, it seemed to be coming down into the building. So it was getting the speed from going downhill, so to speak. It just seemed to me that to do that kind of destruction is even more than a big plane, because you're talking about taking out steel, the heaviest caliber steel that was used on the building. I mean, these buildings were rock solid.
So, that's the President of the United States saying that there must have been a bomb. And he also said that his engineers took him to the crash, to the site afterwards. We are going to get into his engineers and who they might be. I've been trying to track them down, and for the life of me, I cannot do it. In 1 minute. Hey, Georgie, thanks for stopping in. I'm midstream. I'm going to do a kind of like a question and answer at the end. So, before we go any further, you know, this is a good article to read regarding Donald Trump and his ties with the mafia. It should come as no surprise, especially since Donald Trump is heavily involved in the gambling business, the casino business in New Jersey. But first, we're going to take a look at this name right here. Because at the same time that Donald Trump was rubbing shoulders with people in the Italian mafia, Joe Biden was rubbing shoulders with people in the Irish mafia. Frank Sheeran. Just in case anybody's wondering if I'm just trying to defame Donald Trump, I'm trying to defame all of them and all of this. Just in case anybody's wondering. So, what is Donald Trump's connection to the engineers? The best that I can find is Donald Trump's owns 40 Wall Street. And the engineer who built the World Trade Centers is Leslie E. Robertson. They have a floor in 40 Wall Street. That's the best I can come up with. That's the only thing I could find. Now, Casey has 2 videos of two instances of movies or television that takes place inside of 40 Wall Street. This building right here. It's one of the few copper top buildings up here. That is The Wiz. It's The Wizard of Oz with Richard Pryor. And there's the scene where it's in the basement, I believe. I can't remember. But The Wizard of Oz is very fitting for this whole situation. Then there's another video, Person of Interest. One of the features to this was a pneumatic tube system that teleported mail and messages all across the city. A pneumatic tube system is what the ATM tellers use when you put your deposit slip in the thing and it shoots the tube up the thing, up into them and then back to you. That's a pneumatic tube system. I did find something when looking at 666 on Fifth Avenue. Though, in my opinion, I don't know if 666 Fifth Avenue is a target. There is a subway entrance in 666 Fifth Avenue. The building contains an entrance to New York City's subways Fifth Avenue 53rd Street Station, which is served by the E and M trains. Now, if there was some type of foreshadowing regarding pneumatic tubes in the show Person of Interest, a subway entrance, and some type of a terrorist attack, false flag at 666 Fifth Avenue could be a candidate. I remember reading this article right here. Now, Zaha Hadid, I've covered the Hadid family before. They were the crisis actors in Sandy Hook in the Batman bombing. And she later became Bella Hadid, some Instagram thought or something. So Zaha Hadid wants to raise the 1950s office building at 666 Fifth Avenue. This is why I say I don't think it is, but it could be. It could be. Now, the connection to that I'm drawing is Zaha Hadid with Doronin. What's his name? Vladimir Doronin? Vladislav Doronin. Now, one of the things about Vladislav Doronin, he's another architect going around the world, but he loves dating models. And if we look at Naomi Campbell, if you understand that these modeling agencies, the Wolf of Wall Street was formed. Oh, maybe it was. Maybe it was formed. Well, I'll have to look into that. We'll look. No, I want to stay on track. See, if you look at Naomi Campbell, she was discovered at the age of 15. These modeling agencies are just, how you say, overt, so like in your face, child trafficking things. I mean, just always old white men that, come on now, these. Anyways, it's sad, you know? Where was I? Oh. Yes. So again, I'm going to do my best to use this predictive programming and to say, you know, I've kind of highlighted like, look, there could be something at 666 Fifth Avenue. Well, there's another Hollywood predictive programming that we're going to go into. That is The Strain. Now, The Strain was books converted to a series. And the character that we're going to talk about here is Eldridge Palmer. One of the richest men in the world, Eldridge Palmer, craves the one thing that all his money cannot buy: immortality. Now, His name is an in-joke reference to the 1965 Nebula Prize-nominated novel Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch. Okay? Let's check out the next tab. The writer of that movie, Philip K. Dick, wrote plenty of movies that, well, you may not have heard of him, but you probably have heard of his movies. A Scanner Darkly, Minority Report, Blade Runner, Adjustment Bureau, many others. Man in the High Castle. If we look at the Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch, now this was written in 1965. It takes place in the future 2016 regarding two rich people battling for power in New York City. Okay? Y'all can look into this one. But I think more relevant is The Strain. Now, the Strain takes place... I don't think there is a year per se. It takes place in present time, whenever that was, but... this character, Eldritch Palmer, is the Trump character. Listen. Since childhood, Palmer was chronically ill. His doctors did not expect him to live past the age of 40. Craving immortality, he devoted his entire life to becoming one of the richest men in the world so that he could use his formidable resources to preserve his life, be it through illegal or illegal means. By the time of the Master's arrival on Flight 753, which, by the way, was a Boeing 777, that is documented. Let me find it. A Boeing 777, that's the Donald Trump number, by the way. He was born June 14th, 1946. 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days later, he would step into office. Donald Trump is the 777. When you see that number, no, it's Donald Trump. A Boeing 777 arrives at JFK International Airport and is taxiing its way across the tarmac when it suddenly stops. All window shades are closed except one, the lights are out, and communication channels have gone silent. They alert the CDC. Blah, blah, blah. Let's look at some of the other references. According to the first novel, Palmer is officially the third richest man in America, behind Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. But in fact, his secret holdings in Africa and South America make him richer than that. Eldritch is a German name meaning old sage ruler. We know Trump's roots in Germany. We know it. Palmer is a term for somebody who travels to the Holy Land, an immigrant who travels to the Holy Land. We know that he did that. Let's look. There was the occultation of the sun. Maybe that wasn't there. So look. By the time of the Master's arrival on Flight 753, Palmer was 76 years old. We will get back to that. This is the strain, okay? A bug infects humanity, turns everybody into zombies. Eventually, they lock everything down. There's martial law. I'm not going to spoil too much for you, but they have to harvest the blood to feed the vampires. The logo for the strain is an eclipse. See you later. See you later, Georgie. Thanks for stopping by. The Great American Eclipse. Just listen, because this is where it gets very interesting in my opinion. wasn't this. I wonder what this date has. I never figured this date in. We were all looking at August 21st, 2017, when NASA released their balloons into the atmosphere for testing. Although, me being stubborn and blind, I guess I'm going to have to plug this into some of my ideas. Because when I say we were going to go back to it, here we go. By the time of the master's arrival on Flight 753, Palmer was 76 years old. Ready? On April 8th, 2024, Donald Trump will be 77 years old. 77 years, 9 months, and 25 days, going from June 14th, 1946. Let's change that date to October 14th, 2023. It was October 14th. "77 years and 4 months. Close enough in my opinion. It's still the 7-7 day. I was hoping it would say he was 76. But look, in my opinion, I've always looked at the total solar eclipse of April 8th as a very, very important date for the biblical connotation surrounding the center of Damascus. Now, I want you to look that there's 7 streets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I have not gone into all the names, the significance of the names. I personally haven't researched them. I don't know who designed this. I don't know what American puppet dictator designed this, the center of Damascus. But if we zoom in here, we see the 17th of April and the 6th of May written in the streets with Kim Il-sung's name. Something is afoot. Something is significant there. I promise you that. That being said, I think that is a whole separate event. That's not what I'm alluding to. What I'm alluding to is something before this. Y'all ready? This is Eldridge Palmer's multi-billion-dollar company, the Stoneheart Group. Where is it located? 57th Street, the same place that Trump Tower is located. Not the same exact location, but 57th Street. Let me double check that. Between 56th and 57th Street. There you go. Now, we see the name Eldridge Palmer. I don't know these names, but we see Cyrus. What is Cyrus? Who is Cyrus? Cyrus is the ruler who rebuilt the Second Temple. And that's why Israel put Trump on the 70 years coin. He is the 777. This is end times prophecy. This is eschatology self-fulfilled. It is being brought on during our lifetimes. And in case people forget, these are the first 2 reality TV stars, the biggest reality TV stars. Just in case y'all forget what this means, okay? Just in case. Oh, I lost the place on it. Alright. Now listen. I do want to go off into a little side note here. regarding the planets. There's an excellent illustration. So here is what happens right here, yeah? Just listen for a second, I'm going to play it. Let me explain. The illustration they're going to show you here shows the planets moving around for the next 2 to 3 months. Essentially what's happening, these planets are going to line up, and during this 3-month window, this alignment is going to cause, all it is planetary magnetism. It's going to cause a CME. It's going to cause a CME. Everybody's focused on the CME taking out the grid, and that may very well happen. But what I want to stress to you is that whatever they created and whatever they sent out on January 12th, it has activation codes, frequency codes written in it, okay? I want everybody to know this. It has codes written within it. These codes will be activated during this time. This is how they're doing it. I can't say much more on YouTube. I can't. But just watch. During this time, the codes will activate, and it will change it. Whatever you believe, you believe. Whatever you do, whatever precautions you take are the precautions you take. I can't say anything else. It's up to you.
Another planet watcher frustrated by the sun over the next 2 months. Not only do Jupiter and Saturn take a while to break their conjunction, but Mercury just conjoined the sun. Venus is on approach to conjunction, and were it not for that pesky atmosphere, it would appear that the gods are meeting in Olympus.
So let's see. I'm going to slow it down, get rid of the volume. There's a nice date counter here. Let's see if we can find a heavy alignment here. I mean, that's not bad. That's a significant alignment there. We see the Jupiter, Mars, and Venus coming together. That seems like it's getting heavy out here in these dates. And it's that, I mean, out here it's really, this is what I'm talking about. These are when the codes are going to activate. This is when this is what you need to watch out for. Whatever it is, I don't know. This is the whole point. This is why this broadcast is going to take 2 hours. And I wish I had production skills. I wish I had I wish I had this way, this format is like the best of my abilities by myself. So I guess it kind of helps because there's a lot of people out there that want everything spoon-fed to them in the form of a meme. So the people out there, the people that take the time to go through what I do, I truly do appreciate you. That's what this is all about. I could easily just keep this all in my head and profit for myself. So the people that take the time to listen, I don't say it often, but just know that I always mean it, and some days that's what gets me out of bed. And when I get frustrated at myself. Know that. I do get frustrated at the external forces that are out there, but I truly get frustrated at myself. And this is what y'all need to watch out for going on. somewhere around these dates. I don't know. I mean, look at the. I try not to focus on the numerology, even though it's very eye-catching. But look. So, I don't know. What does this all have to do? I said false flag incoming, and I said maybe 666 Fifth Avenue, maybe a CME, maybe activation codes for that thing that for the packages that were sent out to everybody. Well, here we have the Twin Towers. Okay, these are another set of Twin Towers completed in the same year. Trump Tower and this other tower. Now this tower actually looks more like the Superman symbol. So I wonder, is it... Casey likes to say that this is the Superman tower. I think that's what he says. And this is the Batman tower. Or maybe he says this is the Superman tower. I forget. I totally forget. 100%. I can't remember. But oh, what did I have to say? This tower eventually gets hit with a nuke in the video. Sorry for the spoiler alert, but there's a nuke that goes off in the basement of this building. By the way. And what does it have to do with this? Here's Trump Tower. Here's 590 Madison Avenue. Some of the companies that it houses. Bain Capital. We'll look into that in a second. This one is Cemex. Cemex. They're tied to the... It was 2018 was the date that they did the... that they were tied to a child trafficking camp out in Tucson, Arizona, right along the border. No surprise, Donald Trump tied to child trafficking. Then... there is... Let's see, what am I looking at? Oh, Bain Capital. Here you go. Bain, as in the Bain from... Who's it owned by? Mitt Romney. There you go. A Mormon. And the Mormons are... Is he a Mormon? I forget. Or is that some other stooge? Anyways, who cares? So this is the Easter egg that they call it. In I Am Legend, okay, there's the Batman, Superman. So what is the deal with this? Because I believe it was shown. Let's see what this person has to say. Whatever it is, we think it's a some type of predictive programming. That's what they're doing. And what does this have to do with what recently happened? Well, just let me say, I still have no convictions about this. Everything is still conjecture, but I will say for sure that there's a lot of hype around them targeting the AT&T building, 333 Commerce Street. I wonder if these coordinates are anything, because 369 is the Tesla number. He says is the key to the universe. That's what he says. I don't believe it, because a lot of the stuff that we have from Tesla is adulterated. I don't believe in any of the magic that Tesla talks about. I think that there was some very profound science behind Nikola Tesla, but I don't believe in the magic that he talks about. That's all it is, magic. All the stuff in the Bible, magic. All the stuff in your head, magic. 45, we know that that's Trump. So I wonder if this has any meaning. This is how they operate, folks. This is how they do it. This is how they communicate. There's a 33-story building on 333 Commerce Street. 369 would be the key. 45, president. There's Donald Trump. There's something here. I don't know. Now here's the deal: 617 feet. The difference between 590 Madison Avenue, which is 603 feet, and Trump Tower at 664 feet, the difference is 61 feet. That's why I made the video immediately. I have like a 4-minute video, 2 videos prior to this one. They're planning something. I don't know what it is, but I know they're planning something. I know for a fact they're planning something. This attack was fishy as hell. Whatever happened here, you look at the video and things don't add up. We just don't have the details. Listen, I live 15 minutes from Sandy Hook. I know somebody who knows somebody who was a crisis actor. Okay? I was in Sandy Hook 3 days a week playing sports with kids who went to school with Ryan Lanza. Before then, I was on the internet looking up these events. So this is nothing new. Especially to some of my listeners. This is definitely nothing new. And this stinks to high hell. It's got all the markings. And one of the things that I want to ask, one of the questions, one of the things that I saw on the building that blew up, there is hazardous a chemical sign. It's a diamond. It's got four squares within the diamond, different colors. You'll see them on industrial buildings. So there were gas pipelines that were semi-exposed, and the whole theory is because the explosion doesn't look like it came from where it came from. Also, they don't have video of the person parking the truck outside. They say that they found the remains of the person. In my opinion, we don't even know if the person was alive when they parked it there. They could have scopolamined the person. They could have, he was a person who had PTSD, paranoia, could have been a targeted individual. He lived by himself, so all they had to do was sneak in the house one night, or all they had to do was catch him while he was taking a piss out behind a bar, jab him in the neck with some type of sedative, and then they've got their guy. That's simple. Not saying that he didn't do it. I'm just saying that why does this have all the markings of a false flag? And it's a distraction to get people focused on this. They can carry out some covert agendas. This is how it works every time. People are going to be focused on this. People are going to be focused on the elections. People are going to be focused on that. On a whole bunch of stuff. I'm telling you, if there's some type of a bombing, if there's some type of an explosion. Oh, there was something I wanted to go over regarding, I think it was 666 Fifth Avenue. Something going on here. Not saying that people from Qatar or the Qatar government is terrible, but we all know that they can't use Saudis again. They can't use Afghanistans. They can't use Iraqis. And it's going to be very hard to condemn Iranians on American soil. They're going to go after Qatar and they're going to tie it to Iran. That's my guess. Just a guess. I hope I'm wrong. Trust me, if I'm right about this shit, you know how paranoid I'm going to be? I'm going to be paranoid that my own fucking family's going to turn me in. You know how paranoid I'm going to be if I'm correct? I don't want to be correct. But I think that I demonstrated how an independent person such as myself can come up with these conclusions. And it's very simple. It's very simple. But I'm telling y'all, if something blows up, if in the basement of Trump Tower, in the basement of 666 Fifth Avenue, and they say that Trump was there or something like that, trust me, he's not there. Trust me on that one, okay? Trust me. If they say Donald Trump died, this or whatever, no, it's a lie. Trust me. If they say Donald Trump died, I guarantee you he's on Epstein Island 2.0 with Epstein. Because Epstein didn't die either. Epstein is not dead, okay? He was extracted. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, to be honest with you. Oh, we wanted to look up Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know if what Georgie was asking. And I excuse my spellings. Yeah, no. Anyways, unfortunately, that doesn't cover everything. The next series that I'm doing is Donald Trump's direct ties to child trafficking and pedophilia. But then I think I can finally finish up Casey's series, Casey's video series. And I hope that I can get it to Casey. I want Casey to go over it. I want him to decide if he wants to use my commentary. I mean, I only have 10 to 20 people watching my videos. And really only 1 or 2 people give feedback. So I guess y'all could be the screening audience. But I want to, before I put it out there, I want Casey to okay the ideas that are surrounding it. So hopefully I can get this video out to this video or the video that I'm working on out to Dabu. He can get in touch with Casey, so on and so forth. Because I've been putting a lot of work in. Although the last 2 weeks I haven't touched it. I have this mental roadblock of talking about, like, I don't want to talk about this stuff. I don't want to research this stuff. And then I lose my cool. And then I get mad at myself for losing my cool. And it's a self-destructive cycle. I don't want to learn about this stuff. I don't want to talk about this stuff. Because it's all too real. And when you see how far the shit rolls downhill, then you'll understand why I tell people, yo, when the time comes, y'all motherfuckers, do me a favor. If you're not ready to just start killing cops and killing people, killing priests, rabbis, whoever, then don't come around me. Don't make contact with me. Look, man, for all intents and purposes, I live in Sandy Hook, and plainclothes officers, they go around door to door intimidating people who ask questions. So I understand how you could be like, your views are radical. But if you've lived in New Haven, where the police intimidate people, they shake down people. Like, listen, I lived in New Haven. They say New Haven is one of the top 10, or I think they say it's the top 5. This was maybe a few years ago. They say New Haven is the top 5 most crime-ridden cities. New Haven is the top softest city in the country. But the police in New Haven are fucking terrible. They just go, they shake down everybody. And all the coppers, copper is another theme that we're going to talk about, the hemocyanins. I'll do some more videos. I'm glad I got through this one. But seriously, people are like, "Oh, you're gonna kill police?" No, or yes, but no. I'll kill police when they come after me. I'll kill police that cover up pedophilia. You hear me? You motherfuckers out there that's too sissy to stop these fucking bastards from doing this shit and fucking children and making them slaves and all that shit. You motherfuckers that want to have a comfortable house and a comfortable car and a comfortable life. I'll after I'm done, I'll deal with you motherfuckers. Because you motherfuckers are always the one preaching, you gotta be positive. You gotta be friendly in your message. That sounds like something a fucking pedophile or somebody who wants to stick their dick in my ass. That sounds like something that motherfuckers would say. As they slip your drink and they befriend you. Fuck that shit. Don't come around me smiling and being friendly. I only trust you if you try and fight me. How's that sound? Not literally. I'm going off the handle because I finally got through it all. You know? And I pop off at people who of different beliefs and this, that, and the third and this. Because look, I'm tired of pacifism. At the same time, my hands are tied from where I'm at right now. I'm just trying to get to the next level, the next stage. And hopefully I can reveal some stuff. I have some exciting videos I want to get done. Like a lot of people on planet Earth, they think that death is inevitable. And I laugh at that. On a molecular level, on a cellular level, death is only it's a paradigm that we exist in that's a lie. That you can achieve everlasting life through cellular regeneration. And then there's people out there that think that, well, when God decides to take you, it's your time. Bullshit, motherfucker. Like, fuck you. Don't impose that Abrahamic idea. The same people who spread the Satanism are the same ones who spread the idea of heaven, hell, purgatory, reincarnation. Look deeply into physics, and you'll find out. And hopefully I can reveal that to you without being imposing. It's okay to believe in things. I went, but the thing is that I went through my book of pie. I went through it all. So it's like, when anybody says they believe in this, I say, well, have you read this? 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 And they go, no, that's demonic. That's Satanism. I just go, you're preaching to me from the Bible, though, which was written by Satanists. Basic instructions before leaving Earth. But they're going to the moon. They're not. So look. Hell. I'll quote. One of my favorite people on planet Earth. And I believe that he's still here. Not in spirit, in physical form. My only fear of death is coming back reincarnated. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Another the Wheel of Time It turns around the ages like pavement, laid by memory's terms, long or short, what we do, born or bought, right or wrong. We depend on thoughts to be retaught. History made some men legends, but legends fade into a grave, and those men are back here today. Is it reincarnation or retardation? So my question to you is, does reincarnation exist, or do the same retarded circumstances create similar people? Right? Y'all understand that? And I'm serious when I say, because the secret order, that's what I like to call them. I like to call them the secret order. They are trying to use technology and merge with machine to achieve everlasting life, or to aid them in everlasting life, because they haven't figured it out yet. But I'm onto some really cutting edge stuff. And I don't think that it can be achieved. But there's things like dry fasting, and I have the book around me somewhere, the Phoenix Protocol. I'll see if I can flip through the index real quick. If you want to know how to read a book without having to read a book, most proper books will have an index in the back, and you can just go through the index and you can decide whether or not you want to read the book. Okay, so methylation is a process by which methyl groups are added to certain nucleotides in genomic DNA. So a methylation test, reading, examination. This person, his name is August Dunning. He wrote the Phoenix Protocol, which is dry fasting for rapid healing and radical life extension. August Dunning experimented with dry fasting, and he reversed his DNA methylation signature, or at least preserved it in time. So when you talk about time travel, it's in this book right here, folks. Anyways, I hope I didn't scare too many people off. I'm going to end it at that. Eyes to the skies, y'all.